All right, so what are we doing today? We are going to do the notes. There's only 5 problems on the notes. Okay, so it shouldn't take us, hopefully, too long. You do not need to submit your notes on Schoology. You have a 5-question Schoology assignment to do for today. Okay, and then after that, you're going to work on IXL T11. Okay, so again, I want to warn you on today's notes, the last 2 bottom problems, those are pretty tricky. So please make sure that you're writing it down so you can refer back to it, because those 2 are the tricky ones. And there's 2 of those questions on your 5-question Schoology for today. Okay, so let's do this. What are we doing today? I will find volumes of cones. I will find volumes of cones. So if you're finding the volume of a cone, you probably need to know what the cone formula is. So let me take out my handy dandy star chart. I'm doing volume, so you need to go to the volume section. We're doing cones, so cones right here. It's 1/3 base times height, 1/3 b times h. So let's just write it at the top. V equals 1/3 times capital B times lowercase h. Remember, capitals and lowercases make a big difference this year, because capital isn't just base, because B stands for base, but capital means the what of the base. Area of the base. And then H just stands for height. So what is the height? So remember how I normally say, if it's capitalized, that means you have to look at your problem and actually do a problem to get that answer. And if it's lowercase, just look at the picture and grab the number. Okay. So remember how I also said then that capital B, because we're working with cones, your base is always in the shape of a circle. So the circle formula is pi times r squared. And we are always going to use 3.14 for pi, just because 3.14 is the universal pi thing. Don't use your pi button, because when you take the STAR test, there are other kids in the state of Texas who don't have this fancy schmancy calculator, and they don't have pi buttons. That's why, to make everything fair and for everyone to get relatively the same answer, we're using 3.14. All right, here we go. Highlight and shade each base. Let's round to the 100th, so 2 decimals if necessary, just like how your IXL is going to ask you to do. So remember, my base is always the circle. My height is always the line that goes through my entire shape. So volume equals 1/3 times capital B times H. So find B, find H, and then multiply it together, and then you're good. So capital B, look at your shape, is, what is your base? What shape is that? Circle. That's why I'm always writing circle here. And I'll show you after the notes today why I'm actually writing circle, because I'm writing circle all the time. But like next week, you might be writing square or triangle or a different shape. So I need you to know what your base is. Your base is a circle. So you're writing the circle formula, which is pi times r squared. Okay. My radius is actually not written on this paper, so don't be tricked. Taylor, what number is my radius? Okay, so right, so it's 8. You're right. So remember how, like, if you look at a circle, the line that goes completely across is called the diameter. But we don't want D, we want R, because it's pi r squared. So my radius goes from the center to the side. So what's half of 16? That's why Taylor said 8. So it's 3.14 times 8 squared. Did someone do that yet? Taylor? 200.96. Okay. And then my H is my height. How tall is my entire shape? So Valeria, how tall is this whole shape? Because it goes through the whole thing. You're looking for that line. Good job. So it's 16. Remember, lowercase, just grab a number. Uppercase, you got to do a problem first. Okay. So now you're ready to go. V equals 1/3 times B, 200.96, times H, which is 16. Remember, alpha y equals enter. That's how you type in a fraction in your calculator. Alpha y equals enter. You should get something in the thousands. What did we get? Maddie? You're so close. You forgot to do the 1/3. In the calculator, did you type in 1/3 times? You did?
Yeah.
What does it say on your calculator screen then? You wrote,
I did once by accident.
oh, okay. No worries. So just silly mistake. So just be careful when you guys are typing. I think your answer should be in the 1,000. Brooke, what'd you get? And what are your units? Meters cubed. Remember, for volume, it's always cubed because you have a length and a width and a height. So it's meters cubed. So guys, remember how I said yesterday, if you are too lazy to type in 1/3 times, that's the same thing if you don't want to do that as saying divide by what number? 3. But the rule is you have to write divide by 3 at the very end. Okay, don't write it too early. Write divide by 3 at the very end. And you see how you get the same answer? 1071.79, because the 6 tells you to bump it up to a 9. Okay? All right. Let's try another one. So for this one, it looks like I have a base, which is a circle, and a height that goes all the way through. So volume equals 1/3 times capital B times lowercase h. All right, capital B. Jama, what is the shape of my base? So I'm using the circle formula. So Larson, what are the numbers I have to multiply for the circle formula? What are the numbers I have to multiply for this circle formula?
You multiply 3.14 times 9 squared.
Perfect. Notice how he did not get tricked. The diameter is 2. If it goes through your whole circle, that's the diameter, which is not what we want. We want the radius. So half of 2 is 1. That's why Larson said 3.14 times 1 squared. Sophia, when you get that answer, will you tell us, please? Okay, 3.14, easy enough. All right, my height. My height is the line that goes through the whole shape. Parker, how tall is this? Yeah, just this line right here, 2. Okay, so I'm good to go. Volume equals 1/3, don't forget the 1/3, times 3.14 times 2. I should get something like 2 point something. Should be a really teeny tiny number. Taylor, what'd you get? So 2.03 or 093 repeated. So if we're rounding to the hundredth, it's 2.09, right? Because the 3 is less than 5, so it tells the 9 to stay. Taylor, units? Feet cubed. Yeah. Okay. One more basic one, and then we are truly getting to the hard stuff. All right. I have one more cone. My base is always the circle. My height goes through the whole shape. So remember how we said the formula is capital V equals 1/3 times base times height. So capital B. Hannah, what do I have to do to find capital B? Which would be what? Like, what do I do? Which is what shape? Okay. So now what do I do? That's the one we want. Yeah, squared. Okay. So first of all, capital B stands for the area of the base. My base is a circle, so use the circle formula. Area of a circle is pi r squared. So that's 3.14 times r. Your radius is 9. So it's 9 squared. This time I'm not dividing the 9 by 2, right? Because it doesn't show me the line goes all the way through. It's the halfway one, and then it shows me the arrow. So that's all I need. So 3.14 times 9 squared. Tyler, did you get that number yet?
Yeah, it's 254.
Thank you. 254.34. Okay, look at your shape. Somebody online, will you type it or will you unmute yourself? Somebody online, what number is the height here? Thank you. It is 18, because remember, that's the number that just goes through the whole thing. So it's 18. So I'm done. Volume equals 1/3 times base, what Tyler said, times height, what Daniel said. I should get something in the 1000s. Maddie?
1,526.04.
You even remembered the units. Good job. 1,526.04 kilometers cubed. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how I find a cube. Or sorry, not a cube, a cone. Okay, let's do the hard stuff. It's not like super, super, super hard, but it's stuff that, we kind of talked about last week. And now we're going to do it again because I feel like last week, well, we only talked about it once. So let's review it again. Okay. So this time, do you see how it says I have a cone, but they give me the answer. The answer is 628. They give me the radius, but now I have to work backwards and I have to solve for the height. So you're going to have a couple questions like this on your IXL, and you're going to have 2 questions like this on your 5-question Schoology. So write this down. Please ask if you have questions. So if they give me the cone and they give me the answer, why don't you write down the formula first? So the formula is volume equals 1/3 times capital B times H, right? Isn't that the formula that I learned? That's the one that they gave me on the star chart. So now I can say this. Isn't capital B, because it's the area of the base and the base is a circle, isn't capital B always going to be pi r squared? It's never going to be anything else for a cone because your base is always a circle. So capital B is always pi r squared. So let's rewrite this formula, and instead of writing capital B, I'm not going to write capital B because I know capital B is pi r squared. I'm just going to write pi r squared instead. So in place of capital B, I'm replacing it with pi r squared and then times H. Okay. So now what I can do is I can fill in everything that I know. Do you see how capital V, volume, is 628? So where it says V, I'm going to write 628 instead because that is the answer. That is the volume. For 1/3, well, that's a number, so just write the number. For pi, well, don't write the symbol, write the number, 3.14. For r, they give me r. R is 10. So write 10 squared. And then for h, I don't know h. H is right here. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So that's what I'm going to leave open as just the letter h. So leave h as h. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute to write all this down and then I'll move forward. So all I'm doing is I took the volume formula, I replaced capital B with pi r squared because that's what B always is for a cone. And then I started plugging in all the numbers that I know into this formula. Okay, now I can think to myself this. I'm going to cover all this stuff up on top because sometimes it gets confusing. This is really what I'm working with right here. Do you see how for this problem, it's kind of like I have an equation. Do you see how I have all this stuff on the left and all this stuff on the right? Well, all of this, doesn't that just equal a number? Like, can't I just type it in my calculator and get a number? So really I can write as my equation 628 equals, and now let's multiply all that stuff. So 1/3 times 3.14 times 10 squared. So I'm just multiplying that entire side, all those numbers together, to just make it one number to make it cleaner. And that equals 104.6 repeated. So I'm just going to round it to 2, 104.67 times h. So now do you see how I have a one-step equation like what I learned in 5th and 6th grade? What number is still on the same side as h? Like I want to solve for h, so I need to move something over to the other side. So what number needs to go to the other side? Yeah, 104.67. And use opposite operations, right? So it's 104.67 times h, so opposite times is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by h. So 628 divided by 104.67 gives me 5.9999999. So if I round that, isn't that just 6? So that would be my answer. 6 is h. The height is 6. And that's it. So maybe when you're doing this one by yourself on the IXL or on the 5-question Schoology, look at how I set this up so you can try to figure out how you can solve for h. Basically set up an equation and then go from there. Okay, so I used up a bunch of room. So I'm going to say this one goes with this one. This one goes right here. And you're doing the same thing, okay? It's the same exact process. So they give you the answer, they give you the height, but you don't know the radius, so that's what you're looking for. So same thing, if they give you the answer, why don't you use the formula? So volume equals 1/3 times base times height. Maybe what I'll do is I'll cover this part up so you're not confused. Like there's just not too much stuff going on. Okay, so remember how we said base, capital B, is the same thing as saying pi r squared, because in a cone, you're always going to have a circle, so it's always going to be pi r squared. So really, if I wanted to rewrite this, I have V equals 1/3 times pi r squared times h. So I'm just replacing the capital B with the pi r squared. Okay, so now here's all of the information that they gave me in the problem, and this is what I'm going to plug in. So capital V, what number am I putting in instead? Look at what they give you here, and then just plug in here. 1,256 equals 1/3 is just a number, so just recopy 1/3 times pi. Pi is just a number, so recopy 3.14 times r. Let me look at what they gave. Oh, r, question mark. I don't know what r is, so I'm going to write r, because I don't know what r is, squared times h. H, so look here. What number did they say h was? 3. Okay, so finish copying that down, and then I'll solve it the same exact way as I solved the other one. Okay, so I'm going to cover all this stuff up on top so it's not so confusing. Let's look at this again. I have an equation. I need to solve for r. So remember, you have all of these numbers on this side that you can combine. So I can combine 1/3, what's another number I see, times 3.14, what's another number I see, times 3. That equals 3.14. Oh, all right. So I have 1, 2, 5, 6 equals 3.14 because when I multiply this and this and this, that all equals 3.14 times r squared. Okay, so now I have an equation. Karina, what number is still on the same side as r? So that's the number I need to move. So I'm going to drop down 3.14. And do you see how it's 3.14 times r? So we have to use opposite operations. Mikey, what's the opposite of multiply? So I have to divide both sides by 3.14. So if I do that, 1, 2, 5, 6 divided by 3.14, I get, 400. A nice number. 400 equals r squared. That's not my answer. Just like Pythagorean theorem, I didn't want r squared. I just want r. Brooke, what do I do now? So square root it, right? Opposite of squaring something is square rooting it. Did anyone square root that yet? Sophia? Yeah. So do you see how like square root second x squared, 400 like that? So it's 20. So my r is 20. My radius here is 20. And that's it. Okay, so I would highly suggest that you look at these two that we did together when you do those 2 questions on your 5-question Schoology. Okay, so let me tell you what you're doing right now because we are about to separate very, very